what originally got you bold into lifting weights when you were younger? Did you start weightlifting and powerlifting straight away? So originally, if you in hindsight, I actually was a very sporty child, but looking at it now, or so at the time,
I was retrospectively sporty.
I didn't think I was that into sports that much when I was younger. So initially I started taekwondo and I played football and some racquetball when I was like 5 or 6. And I did a lot
Played
of
a racquetball
for like a year or two and a bit of handball and stuff. So we used to play racquetball and handball alley, which was very hard for a fucking 10-year-old. But so I did all of those, and then when I was 12 I stopped most of those and I kept playing field sports, so Gaelic football, and then from the ages of about 12 to 15. And so that period in there, for my whole life I hated playing Gaelic football. I hated field sports. So if you had asked me at the time, I would have said I wasn't very sporty or athletic. It turned out I just didn't realise it, but I just didn't have the right opportunity to go to the right sports. I was just doing the wrong sport for me, and that's why I associated some sports with stuff that I didn't like doing. When I was 15, my oldest brother, he competed a lot in strongman, naturally to his own detriment, so he didn't take any drugs, but he was quite strong. He deadlifted like 300 kilos, squatted like 250 or something, and he lived in the UK, and he came home one Halloween midterm, and I was just kind of arsing around at home, and I wanted to go to the gym, and he came back and he was going to the gym, and I was like, I'm gonna come with you. And then just literally day one I was like, bro, this is it. And then he gave me Ross Enamites, never Infinite Intensity, Katie Taylor's boxing coach. Stop doing that. And then he literally just went from there. And then a few weeks after that, from being in that whole kind of atmosphere thing and looking at it, and Ross Enamite had a load of respect for Olympic weightlifters. I was like, what the fuck is Olympic weightlifting?
Yeah.
So then I googled Olympic weightlifting. I saw the Sydney 2000 Olympics 69 kilo class, Georgi Markov, mullet, traps, nipples on show. I was like, that's what I want to fucking do. And then about 3 years later, day one university, went straight to the gym and joined it in UL. And here we are.
I started lifting when I was like 14 for playing rugby. And then I used to like lifting weights because it was like slightly different training stimulus from rugby. And it obviously made a big difference when I was actually playing. Like I could feel like that kind of training made a big difference for me. And then I'd stopped playing rugby when I was like 21. So when I stopped, I had to put all of those hours and hours every week that I usually spend training or going to the gym or playing matches into something else, and I just put it into weightlifting. I was just very, very lucky that I met certain people along the way, like before and after that made that transition a bit easier. Justin Harrell has a question for you.
Go on.
Says he's trying to put on 10 to 20 kilos from 92 kilos. That is a legitimate amount of weight.
I managed it.
Fridge, what are some of the meal frequencies that helped you bulk? And why do I feel terrible during taper week? So 2 questions.
Okay, so I'll give you a really just a funny story because it's funny to hear, right? So European Juniors, I qualified as an 85, but obviously it was like my second year of weightlifting, so I was going through massive bodily changes. I qualified for 85. 5 months before that, I was 92 kilos, and then proceeded to cut down to about 84.5 kilos. Obviously, it was horrendous and it was the least fun thing I've ever done. Did the competition, whatever. So went working full time. So for our work experience for 8 months, you just literally go work in industry. But I got screwed over and I was doing a manual labor job in a pharmaceutical company. So I was working like 45 hours a week. I was still doing a bit of farming and I was training a lot, obviously. So I was eating like probably like now it looks like I was probably eating like 3,500 to 4,000 calories a day, and I got to a very, very lean, like 90 kilos, and I was holding steady around like 90, 91 kilos for months on end because I was just doing so much stuff. And then, funnily enough, obviously training wasn't going great during that period. I didn't make a lot of great progress. But anyway, so came back to college, 92 kilos. Within 6 weeks, I was 100 kilos. So that was literally budget diet. I ate, it was like Weetabix for breakfast, right? In the evening was always scrambled eggs and chorizo, so spicy sausage. You never get sick of that flavour. And then during the day was like meat and pasta or meat and rice usually. Now what I would recommend the vertical diet. Just go look at the vertical diet. That's what I would recommend for bulking for sure. For lean gains kind of and healthy bulking. I'd be all over the vertical diet. And why do I feel terrible during taper week? So most of the time during training, you're psychologically hyped up. You are hopefully well programmed. So there's, you're under fatigue. You're training a lot, but you are into training. You're doing a lot of volume. You're doing a lot of moving. And so then when you get to taper week, you're on this big peak and a crest, and then you slowly taper off. And psychologically, most of the time, people just kind of let go, and they're like, oh. Usually when you have taper week is when you need taper week the most. And so if you have a very, very smart coach, by the time you get to taper week, it's just when you need it. And so by the time you get to taper week, you're like, oh, fuck, thank God that's over. And so that's typically what happens to people, because people take more time off. They move less. They're doing less training. So that's generally why. Because you need it, and you just kind of, you release, you relax.
Yeah, it's that accumulation over the previous 8 or 9 weeks is what causes taper week to feel like crap.